What if I told you Canadians are quietly rejecting the biggest brands, one cup of coffee, one pair of shoes, one family dinner at a time? This isn't a protest. It's a silent revolution happening right in your shopping cart. And the reason behind it might just change the way you shop forever. Have you ever imagined that one day, Canadians known for being kind, polite, and America-loving would stop supporting American brands? But in 2025, that's exactly what happened. And it didn't happen with loud protests or anger. It happened through simple everyday actions. People stopped buying. They started checking labels to see if things were made in Canada. And if it wasn't from the US, they felt it was safe to buy. Many said, "We all have to support Canada." One man even said, "From now on, I'll buy Canadian whiskey." People left Starbucks, even though they were regular customers every morning. They gave up Harley-Davidson, a brand they loved for decades. Some even stopped sending their children to study in the US, but this story isn't just about products. It's about trust. It's about national pride. And the big question is America's image fading, even in the eyes of its closest friends? Today, we'll look at the 10 biggest boycotts by Canadians in 2025. And you won't believe what happened at number 5. If you care about how every dollar is spent, watch till the end. And if you think these things matter, don't forget to subscribe. Let's keep this conversation going honestly, respectfully, and without judgment. In just 1 month, Canadians brought down a giant. Not with protests. Not with laws. But simply by changing where they get their coffee. Starbucks was the first brand to feel the real impact of the boycott. From Toronto to Vancouver, the change was clear. It all started in April 2025, when the US suddenly increased tariffs on Canadian goods. Instead of getting angry, Canadians responded in their own quiet way. They stopped buying American coffee. #BoycottStarbucksCA started trending on social media. According to a 2025 report, Starbucks sales in Canada dropped by 22%. Once a popular hangout spot, Starbucks became strangely quiet. A 61-year-old retired teacher from Ontario said, "I don't hate Starbucks. But it feels wrong to spend $6 every day when a local coffee shop near me is struggling." This wasn't just about taste anymore. It was about pride, community, and making conscious choices. From Vancouver to Montreal, small coffee shops saw their business boom. Some made 3 times more sales in just 3 months. They had to hire more staff and even expand their shops. An app called Maple Roast, which helps people find Canadian cafes, hit over 2 million downloads in May alone. Clearly, Canadians were returning to their values. But not everyone agreed. Some worried that as Starbucks closed branches, Canadian workers would lose jobs. A 28-year-old barista in Quebec said, "We understand why people are upset. But we're just employees. We don't make the policies." So the question becomes, how can we stand up for our country without hurting our own neighbors? And if you think Starbucks was the biggest name affected, just wait until you hear about number 5. Because what happened next shocked everyone. No one shouted. No one made speeches. But the empty seats at McDonald's told the whole story. Canadians didn't need protests to show their feelings. They simply stopped going back. After the 2025 tariff news, McDonald's became another target of the boycott. According to the Q3 report, McDonald's Canada saw a 16% drop in revenue. The biggest losses were in Toronto, Vancouver, and Calgary. A 47-year-old mother in Mississauga shared her experience. "I used to take my kids to McDonald's every weekend. It was fast and easy. My child loved it. But one day, he asked, 'Mom, why don't we eat from a Canadian place?' That question changed everything. Now they go to a small local restaurant. The owner knows her son's name. The burgers are made with local meat." In places like Ottawa and Halifax, small restaurants saw a 40% increase in sales. Some had to turn away customers on weekends because they were too full. This wasn't just about food. It became a way to teach kids about values and choices. But again, not everyone was happy. A 62-year-old McDonald's employee from British Columbia said, "We are Canadians too. We just wear McDonald's uniforms. Many stores here are run by local owners. They pay local taxes and hire local workers. So now people are asking deeper questions. Are we eating just to fill our stomachs? Or to support the values we care about? It's sad to give up familiar meals. But it also makes you think, what does a burger really stand for?" The boycott didn't stop at coffee or fast food. It spread to everyday shopping too. And coming up next is a company no one thought could be shaken. But now it's shaking under this silent wave of change. In the past, few people thought shopping said anything about our beliefs. But in 2025, that changed. Canadians started leaving Amazon. Quietly but clearly. This wasn't about anger. It was about exhaustion. When the U.S. expanded tariffs using Section 301, prices went up. People realized that every online order was supporting a system they no longer trusted. The Canada E-commerce Association reported a 24% rise in Amazon Prime cancellations in just 2 months. At the same time, Canadian platforms like Well.ca, BookCity, and Etsy Canada saw more visitors. A retired couple in Toronto had used Amazon for nearly 10 years. They were planning to buy a Kindle. But after watching the boycott grow, they changed their mind. The wife said, "We don't hate Amazon. But we've lived in this neighborhood for 30 years. Why not support the small bookstore around the corner?" And that's how it began. One small decision led to another. Local businesses started getting more love. People shared store lists with each other. They left online reviews. New apps like Local Loop helped people shop in their own neighborhoods. Canadians realized something powerful. Even small choices can protect big values. But just like any story that changes suddenly, not everyone is happy. An Amazon warehouse owner in British Columbia had to cut worker hours after orders dropped. That warehouse used to give jobs to almost 200 people. He said, "We understand why customers are leaving, but when they do, our families suffer too. Every click online is a choice. Sometimes, that choice has a price the whole community must pay." When was the last time you bought something from a local store? Could one online purchase slowly destroy a whole neighborhood? A small local economy, a strong bond among people? If you're still listening, maybe you can also feel that something big is changing. There are no protests, no shouting, no damage, just a quiet but powerful wave. And if these stories make you think, please hit the subscribe button so we can keep sharing more. You can also comment below. Have you ever stopped buying a brand for a reason bigger than yourself? Share your story, maybe someone out there needs to hear it. In a small town near Ottawa, the change began quietly. People stopped shopping at Walmart after the U.S. added high tariffs on Canadian goods in 2025. Many Canadians felt hurt and didn't wait for politicians to speak. They protested in the best way they knew, by shopping somewhere else. According to the Canadian Retail Statistics Bureau, visits to Walmart.ca dropped by 31% in just 2 months. Sales in provinces like British Columbia and Quebec also dropped a lot. The "Shop Canadian First" movement is growing fast on social media. People are now choosing to support Canadian businesses, from small grocery stores to big ones like Loblaws, Metro, or even weekend farmers markets. A 59-year-old retired man from Ontario said he now buys fruits and vegetables from a local farm. Even though it's more expensive than Walmart, he feels good because his money stays in the community. Then something amazing happened. Local stores saw a big increase in customers. Some had to add more weekend shifts to meet the demand. An app called True North Market, which helps find Canadian stores nearby, got over 1 million downloads in less than 60 days. Have you ever stood between two choices? One side is convenience, the other is self-respect. One side is saving money, the other is helping your own community. If you've been in that situation, share your story in the comments. Have you ever made a buying choice that wasn't just about price? Now let's move to the next item, a brand that was once a big part of American culture. But now, it's feeling the pressure of this quiet Canadian protest. Coca-Cola. A cold Coke used to be a normal part of fast food meals, movie nights, sports games, and picnics. But in 2025, many Canadians stopped drinking it not because of the taste, but because of pride. After the US-Canada tariff fight, Coca-Cola was the first beverage people stopped buying. There were no protests or official campaigns. One day, people just started choosing Canada Dry instead. Coca-Cola's income in Canada dropped by 27% in the second quarter of 2025. Meanwhile, local drink brands like Canada Dry, 1642 Cola, and craft sodas from Pay and Quebec doubled their sales. A restaurant owner in Nova Scotia had been selling Coke for over 30 years. But she saw that people stopped ordering it. She said, "No one said anything, but I knew they were sending a message." She removed Coke ads and put Canada Dry near the counter. The change happened fast. A movie theater in Toronto put up a sign, "Coke Free Zone." A university in Vancouver replaced all vending machines with local drinks. Fancy restaurants in Montreal added this line to their menus: "We don't serve Coke." Coca-Cola tried to win customers back by launching a special edition called Northern Lights, with maple syrup flavor. But it was too late. The trust was already broken. Small drink sellers who depended on Coke are now struggling. A dealer in Manitoba said, "We're not part of politics, but our stock isn't selling, and I might have to fire people." Coca-Cola, once a global symbol, suddenly became a test of Canadian pride and values. Can a sip of soda really carry a message of loyalty? Or are we turning every shopping decision into a silent vote on what we believe? Have you ever stopped buying something just because it didn't match your values anymore? If yes, share your story. Someone out there might be going through the same thing. But the biggest surprise was still to come. It wasn't a drink or a store. It was a motorcycle. Harley Davidson. For many Canadians, it wasn't just a bike, it was freedom, power, and pride. But after the 2025 tariffs, even Harley Davidson was hit by the boycott wave. In just 3 months, their sales in Canada dropped over 35%. Dealerships in Alberta and Saskatchewan had to close. Meanwhile, other brands like Triumph, UK, and Ducati, Italy, grew fast. A biker from Manitoba who rode his Harley across Canada said, "I bought it after I retired. It was my dream. But now, I no longer feel proud riding it." He tried to sell it, but no one showed interest. A group of bikers in Vancouver did a silent parade all riding Canadian-made electric bikes. It was a quiet but strong message of rejection. Mechanics who fixed Harleys say business dropped by 60%. Some switched to fixing farm tools. Some had to shut down. When something you love no longer stands for what you believe, do you still keep it? Or let it go, even if it hurts? Now we move from bikes to shoes. Even a simple sneaker brand wasn't safe. Nike. Once a symbol of motivation, just do it. But in 2025, many Canadians chose not to do it anymore. After the US tariffs, boycotts grew from food and bikes to even clothes and shoes. Nike's sales in Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia dropped by 18 to 22% in just 1 quarter. At the same time, local brands like Vessi and startups using recycled materials doubled their growth. A graphic designer in Vancouver who used to collect Nike shoes said he stopped after learning about sustainable shopping. He now buys from a Canadian company that uses recycled rubber and plastic. From small steps, a big movement is growing. The "buy with meaning" wave is catching on among Canadian youth. An app called Tread Right, which scores brands based on ethics, has been downloaded over 800,000 times in 6 weeks. If your shoes could speak, would they still match who you are? Would you still wear them if the message behind them no longer fits your values? Nike is still around. But Canada is clearly changing. In Canada, many people have stopped supporting big brands, and no one is cheering for them anymore. Have you ever changed what you buy because you felt a brand no longer stood for what you believe in? If yes, please share your story. Even a small change can inspire others to think differently. And if you think Nike went too far, what's coming next might surprise you even more. Because this time, it's not about clothes or shoes. It's about the cold can of soda or beer sitting in your fridge. Every summer, Canadians from Toronto to Edmonton enjoy cold drinks, fireworks, and backyard chats. But in 2025, something changed. One famous brand quietly disappeared from those gatherings. No one said it out loud, but everyone knew the reason. A report from the Northern Brewer Alliance showed that Budweiser lost 28% of its market share in just 3 months. At the same time, Canadian beer brands like Moosehead, Steam Whistle, and many local craft beers grew by over 35%. Some factories even had to open extra canning lines to keep up. Bars across Canada began to put up signs that said, "Craft beer only," and "Proudly Canadian." Even in places like Calgary where Budweiser used to dominate, things started to shift. This change was not just about business. A beer distributor in Manitoba said, "I had a 12-year deal with Budweiser, but now I had to switch to another brand." It's hard to change when you've done the same job your whole life. For many, this is not just a boycott. It feels like saying goodbye to an old friend who no longer understands them. It's a new kind of freedom, consumer freedom. Buying or not buying something is more than just a choice. It can mean changing your role in your community. Have you ever stopped buying something that once felt part of your life? Maybe it reminded you of your youth, but now it feels wrong. Please tell us your story in the comments. Someone might find the courage to change just because of your words. And if Canadians can leave behind a cold beer, they can also question something even deeper. Let's talk about food. Not just any food, but food tied to memories. Like KFC. The sound of the box opening. The smell of crispy chicken. The familiar taste shared at family dinners. But in summer 2025, many Canadians quietly said goodbye to KFC. It wasn't loud, but it was real. A report from the Canadian Food Service Monitor showed that KFC's revenue dropped by over 19% in Ontario and Alberta. Meanwhile, Canadian chains like Mary Brown's, Chester's, and many small fried chicken shops saw a big increase in sales. People started to look for local flavors. The Local Bites app, which helps people find independent restaurants, reported a 540% jump in searches between May and July. The taste didn't change, but people's hearts did. Now, eating with a clear conscience is more important than just eating something familiar. If a chicken meal can make us question our values, maybe eating has never been only about taste. Yes, flavors hold memories. But trust is in our choices. And many Canadians are choosing again. Not with big words, but with small actions. Like changing what they eat. Have you ever stopped going to your favorite restaurant, not because the food was bad, but because you wanted to support something better? Tell us. Your story might help someone else take that same step. And if you think food is the last thing people are rethinking, there's still one more change coming. It's about something bigger. A dream that once meant everything to many Canadian families. Studying in the United States. Parents who could never study abroad saved money for years so their children could go. But in 2025, that dream began to fade. Not because students weren't smart enough, but because trust in that dream started to break. According to the U.S. Department of Education, Canadian student applications to U.S. universities dropped by 31%, the biggest drop in 20 years. At the same time, applications to schools in the UK, Netherlands, and Australia rose by over 40%. Top Canadian universities like McGill, UBC, and Toronto also saw a rise in early applications. No one made a big goodbye. No tears. Just a quiet choice. Students sent rejection letters to U.S. schools and looked elsewhere. Some Canadian high schools even canceled programs focused on studying in the U.S. Even American education consultants are now helping students apply to Europe instead. The U.S. once received billions of dollars from international students. But now, it is losing more than money. It's losing a bond. A cultural connection. That special feeling that made Canadians believe studying in the US was the best option. But a university degree is not just about classes. It reflects your trust in the place giving you that degree. And when that trust fades, what does the dream really mean? A door may look beautiful, but if you don't feel welcome behind it, it's just a door. Have you or your family ever thought about studying abroad? Did you change your mind or still believe in that path? Share your story. Even a quiet decision can shape the future for the next generation. These are not just stories of 10 brands. They are pieces of a changing society. Not driven by anger, but by people choosing what really matters with their wallets, their meals, and their dreams. You might think your morning coffee or your favorite shoes are small things. But one day, you walk past your favorite store and don't go in. You eat something new. You touch your car keys and then walk away. And in that moment, you realize every small act of buying or not buying says something big. From breakfast to university dreams, Canadians are choosing again. Not because someone told them to, but because they believe in something better. And that belief makes these choices powerful. No one is forcing anyone to boycott or stay loyal. But every choice tells a story. It shows what you care about. It shows what kind of community you want to be part of. So if you've ever changed what you buy for a reason greater than yourself, for the community, or for your beliefs, tell us. That one story might be the reason someone else finds the strength to do the same. This video does not promote boycotts, hate, or politics. It simply shares what is happening in Canadian society in 2025. The goal is to create respectful and meaningful conversations. Thank you for watching this video until the end. If you found it interesting, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. We'll see you in the next video, where we continue to explore the world not just with our eyes, but with our hearts.